Good afternoon.
Afternoon. Councilwoman Bevins, I was looking for you yesterday and couldn't catch up with you. Disappeared on
Yep.
me. I'll
So
call
many
you.
people.
I'll call you a little later. Okay, so wow. Why don't we start? If everybody's here, we will start with page one with Tim Sheridan, our court administrator.
Good afternoon, Councilman Jones, Chairman Jones, and the rest of the council. Tim Sheridan on behalf of the judges of the circuit court, and with the support of the administration, we have a contract that we'd like to put in front of the county council for approval to rent the Towson Post 22 American Legion that we've been using for the last year and a half for selection of jury trials, to continue selecting jury trials there from October 1st through the next year. And it costs roughly somewhere around $45,000 a month, which is expensive, but it's very vital to us. And the situation there has been working very well. And the court is selecting trials every day, usually one criminal and one civil every day. And we are currently very close to being caught up on our criminal caseload and a little bit behind on our civil caseload. So the purpose of this lease is to continue that until such a time as we get a new jury room, which the administration has authorized for in capital expenditure for hopefully this time next year. I could go on further if you need more information, but I don't know how much more you need.
Okay, are there any questions or comments from the members?
Chairman?
Yes, Councilman Marks.
Yes, Mr. Sheridan, as you know, I was picked to be a member of a jury last spring. First time in 21 years I've ever been picked in a jury. Fortunately, I didn't get to go past the American Legion, but I appreciated the efficiency with which you ran that operation. Also, it was good to see Judge Cahill there as well, who came out and greeted everyone and explained the process, which I thought was great. So it looks like you've done a very good job within that space, and I certainly look forward to the permanent accommodations.
Thank you. And there's a lot of people on the court staff doing a lot of hard work down there, and the judges have done a great job there too. So I think it's been a benefit to the citizens. Thank you, Council.
Okay, I tell you, I will add that I'm so excited about the improvements we're going to make in the courthouse for people who are doing their civic duty and participating as a member of the jury or being available. And I know it can be a sacrifice for people. So while they're there, it's very important that they are comfortable. And we certainly appreciate everything that's being done in terms of renovating the space, as well as making them as comfortable as possible at the American Legion. Now, on that note, Mr. Sheridan, is there something you want to tell us?
Well, I am moving on to a different county. Going to be the Montgomery County Circuit Court Administrator, starting my last day here last day on the payroll is October 3rd. Last day working in the office is September 23rd. And I'd like to say it's been awesome working in this county. And I see it's hard. The hardest part for me to leave is I think everything in the court is going very well right now. And we've gotten great support from the council and great support from the administration. And just building out this jury room in the building is something we've talked about 10 years ago. And it's happening. And the court is on the verge of being very efficient and very good. And it's hard to leave, but that's what I'm doing. I will be here for the 19th for this bill to get through. So thank you. And it's been a pleasure working with all of you.
Well, Mr. Sheridan, I tell you, Tim, I think you've done a fantastic job. And you've been there, you're the only court administrator I've known. You've been there and you've done a fantastic job. You've always been approachable. You've been straight up and sincere. And I think you've run the court as best you can. And I think you did it at the highest level that anybody could ask for. So we're certainly going to miss you. I would love to stand here and do what I can to keep you. but I don't know what they're paying you down there. All I know is here in Baltimore County, we pay the council members somewhere around 62,000, and they pay their council members like 154,000. So I don't make any judgments on the salary. I don't think we can compete, but we certainly going to miss you and certainly wish you well.
Thank you. And the bench did hire my replacement, Stephanie Medina, the deputy court administrator, who is excellent and is ready. And you'll be seeing her smiling face. She had to leave early today because it is her birthday. So the bench did hire her, and you'll be very happy with her. She's excellent.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Is that her balloon in the back?
That is her birthday balloon in the back.
Hopefully
With a
she had more
unicorn
than
on
one.
it. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, it's Tom Boswick. If I may just really quickly, I've known Tim. He was the first person I met probably in law school in the fall of 1988, and I've known him all those years since. And you know, we've always been good friends, and I haven't seen a lot of him really during the COVID period. But it's always been nice to know that he's here in Towson, and you know, someone I've known for so long, and so I'm certainly going to miss him. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Boz. Miss
Mr.
you too.
Chairman, if
You're welcome.
we could have a second as well. We really enjoy our working relationship with Mr. Sheridan. It's been a pleasure. And on behalf of the administration, Tim, you know we're going to miss you, and it's our loss and Montgomery's gain. But we will keep on that rich tradition of moving things forward and working cooperatively. And the new jury room space project will definitely come to fruition. So thank you for all your support. It's been great working with you, and we look forward to working with your deputy as well.
Thanks, Stacy. I appreciate everything you say, and you guys have been great.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Tim. Godspeed, my friend.
Good night.
Good night. So now we'll move on to page 5. Mr. James Benjamin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the council. As you'll recall, the county initially entered into a contract with Beveridge and Diamond, PC, on July 28, 2021, for an amount not to exceed $25,000 to provide legal consulting services regarding an investigation by the EPA concerning potential violations of the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, also known as RCRA, at the police department's outdoor pistol firing range located at 2001 Delaney Valley Road in Lutherville, Maryland. As you may recall, in the fall of 2021, the EPA issued a notice of potential violations of RCRA, as the Office of Law does not have in-house attorneys with the requisite subject matter expertise in this complex area of environmental law. It was determined that it was in the best interest of the county to have Beveridge and Diamond provide consulting services and advice as to the scope of potential claims and/or litigation which may arise, along with legal strategies for the development of viable defenses to any claims and/or litigation. In January 2022, the council approved expenditures up to an additional $25,000 in the event necessary, for a total not to exceed amount of $50,000. However, due to the complex nature of the EPA's investigation and to address legal issues resulting from its investigation, it's necessary for the county to receive additional services in regard to certain regulatory compliance matters. Council approval is thereby being sought to approve expenditures of up to an additional $25,000 for a total not to exceed $75,000. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Benjamin. Any questions or comments from the members? Thank you very much. We'll move right on to page 9. Ms. Deb Schindel.
Good evening, Councilman President and council members. The administration is requesting an approval of an agreement with EA Engineering, Science, and Technology to provide testing service for underground tank storage tanks and piping at various county-owned and operated buildings. This contract is a 1-year contract with 4 one-year renewals. It was a competitive bid based on low bid, best qualified, best value, and most experience. The estimated use for this contract will be $356,514.36. This contract will be used basically to inspect all of our underground storage tanks, diesel for fuel or heating. And it's to keep us in compliance with the MDE regulation COMAR 26.10, where MDE will do random compliance checks based on all of our fuel tanks, and then we will do repairs as needed. I'm willing to take any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the members? Thank you very much, Ms. Shendel. Next, we'll move on to Mr. Lawrence Richardson.
Good
Couple
afternoon.
of contracts, page 13 and 16.
Yes, good afternoon, Chairman Jones, members of the council. The administration is seeking to enter into a contract with Wraparound of Maryland and Hope Health Systems to provide our mental health case management and care coordination services for eligible youth and their families residing in Baltimore County. This contract has 4 one-year renewals. There's no cost to the county, as the 2 vendors will receive reimbursement through the Medicaid system. The care coordination allows for a multi-level continuum of care for children, youth, and families to support a transition back to a home environment while remaining in their home or current living arrangement, transitioning into a lower intensity of services or restrictiveness of placement. The contract requires the provider to meet all federal and state Medicaid standards for care coordination and to adhere to COMAR pertaining to the mental health case management. I'll be ready to take any questions for these 2 contracts.
Any questions or comments from the members? Thank you very much, Mr. Richardson. We will move on to page 20, Ms. Laura Raleigh.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. The administration is requesting approval of a contract with Legal Aid Bureau Incorporated, doing business as Maryland Legal Aid, to provide legal services to Baltimore County residents age 60 or older in accordance with the terms of the Older Americans Act. The contract will commence October 1st, continue for 1 year, with renewals automatically for 4 additional 1-year periods. Compensation may not exceed $75,000 during the initial 1-year period. They'll provide legal advice, representation in administrative hearings and in court, community legal education, and informational consultation to Baltimore County's older adults. This was put out to bid. However, they were the only respondents to the open bid process.
Okay, any questions or comments from the members? Hearing none, moving right along to page 24, Cardinal Sheen Center.
Yes. The Department of Aging and the administration is requesting approval of a contract with the Cardinal Sheen Center, doing business as St. Elizabeth Hall, to provide eating together congregate meals for participants age 60 and older. We've been participating in this program with St. Elizabeth since 1993, so this is a continuation of that relationship. They provide supervisory personnel on site. They prepare the meals. They schedule all of the volunteers and register all the participants. So we believe it's a win-win. We expect to serve about 2,500 people during the fiscal year. And the contract would not exceed $11,250 per annum.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the members? Hearing none, move on to your page 28, the Islamic Society of Baltimore.
Yes, so we're requesting approval of a contract not to exceed $25,000 with the Islamic Society of Baltimore to provide site-prepared eating together congregate meals at their center. They will hire a contractor to prepare and serve all of their meals following their halal diet requirements. The Islamic Society will also provide supervisory personnel, recruit their volunteers, and register all the participants, who must be at least 60 years of age or older, or the spouse thereof, or a handicapped disabled person under 60 residing with an older adult. So the contract is from October 1, 2022 through September 30th, 2023, with additional 1-year renewal options.
Any questions or comments from the members?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Go right ahead, Councilman Batoka.
Thank you. Ms. Riley, I think the Islamic Society of Baltimore is an excellent location to have a congregate meal setting. The ISB, or Islamic Society of Baltimore, it's got a regional presence as well as a local presence. And so I think it's great to include that community, and also to have congregate meals at a place where folks are really comfortable being together with their peers and with younger and older folks. So good job on selecting the ISB.
Thank you. And this is a continuation of a relationship we've had with them for approximately 10 years. And it's been a very positive relationship, and it helps us to reach a population that we otherwise weren't serving. So thank you for recognizing that.
We participated in a significant amount of food distribution events at the Islamic Society of Baltimore during the past couple of years with the COVID pandemic, and always that organization is always serving their community. It was great to participate in that with them. Thank you.
Laura?
Yeah.
Wait, catch. Just very quickly, the previous contract with what is the church, Saint Cardinal Sheehan, I believe.
Yes, it's actually not a church. It's a senior housing site. It's
okay.
It's apartment.
And that's on site, providing this food.
Yes, they have an operational kitchen, and they will prepare their own meals, and we'll reimburse them at the same rate we would if it were our own caterer.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go right ahead.
Yeah, just echoing Councilman Patoka's comments. The ISB, Islamic Society of Baltimore, they really do good work. They have a huge community, really good outreach. So, I appreciate those efforts as well. Thank you.
Sure. Any additional questions or comments? Thank you very much, Ms. Riley.
Thank you.
Sure. Now we will move on to page 32. And Ms. Marcia Williams.
Good evening.
Resolution 3622.
Good evening, Council President and council members. I'm here to ask for approval for Resolution 3622, Resolution 3722, and Resolution 3822. This is to provide assistance to Marriott Station 2 LLC. Resolution 3622 authorized the county to enter into a 10-year pilot agreement with Marriott Station 2 LLC for stipulated payments in lieu of real property taxes in order to provide assistance for acquisition of the property and the development of 84 income restricted rental units for seniors. The project is located at 1500 Merritt Boulevard in Dundalk. The agreement shall be effective July 1, 2024. As a companion matters, Resolution 2722 approves the project and the project financing, and Resolution 3822 authorized Baltimore County to provide a 40-year loan, $1 million loan from the federal program Home Investment Partnerships funds to be given to Marriott Station LLC to partially fund the redevelopment of the project. Are there any questions?
Marcia?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bevins here. How are you?
I am fine. How are you, Councilwoman?
I'm well. So this Merritt Station 2, is the location of this behind the giant shopping center?
Marriott Station, it's going to be right adjacent to Marriott Station 1, which is close proximity to the Denny's, and it's
okay, that's the
yeah,
okay,
right,
location. Okay,
that's the location.
So this is in addition to what is already there.
Correct,
Okay.
Councilwoman.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Williams. Are we going to move on to page 32, resolution 3722? Or did you do that one already?
I did all three of them at
Get all
once.
three.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All of
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ms. Williams. And now we'll move on to page 38. Correspondence with the non-competitive awards. We'll read that later.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. These are the non-competitive awards that I, as the secretary, are required to read at the next legislative session.
Okay. How many are there? Do you know?
Not too many this time around. I think just
Three.
four.
Three.
Three. Sorry, Ed,
Okay.
3. Yes.
Fantastic. All right. Next, what we'll do now, pursuant to the legislation we passed some time ago dealing with the Police Accountability Board, the members of the board are selected by the county executive and must be confirmed by the county council. So what we're going to do is go down one at a time. We'll do this one at a time, as well as we will vote for each member one at a time. So today, what we'll do is give every member, I will introduce you. I'll give you an opportunity to say a few words about yourself and why you want to serve on the board. We have your resumes and every other document you gave to the government. And then I'll open it up for questions and comments from the members. And then when we're done, we will move on to the next person. Are there any questions or comments about the process, which is the same as we've done for pretty much every appointment? So starting off with our very first person, which is Peter Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Council Chairman Jones. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So I'd like to thank the county executive for the nomination to this board and the council for its consideration. I'm really honored and humbled by it, and look forward to serving and working to make policing more equitable and more accountable in Baltimore County, by doing so making it better. So I became interested in this sort of public advocacy in 2020. My older son, Sam, was going through some struggles with mental health and addiction. And during that time, we had need to call on the Baltimore County Police for help. They responded, brought out their behavioral crisis team, and got Sam into the treatment and help he needed. You know, and as glad as I was to be able to have access to that service, I thought at the time, and, you know, 2020 was a big time for this kind of thinking. Is what if I didn't feel like I could call on the police in that situation? What if instead of being a middle-class white family, you know, we were poor or less educated or a minority, and, you know, if we weren't a group that could count on that privilege, would we feel comfortable calling for that help? And I just thought, God, that must be the worst feeling in the world. And I couldn't imagine how that might feel. So sadly, we lost Sam to a drug overdose this spring. And I came to feel that the best way to honor his memory would be to find a way to ensure that, you know, the next family in crisis would always be able to reach out for that help, regardless of their position in our society. So basically, you know, I told somebody, I know we were dealt a bad hand with our son, but at least we had the chance to play it out fairly. And I just felt I needed to do what I could to make sure that everybody in Baltimore County could, you know, that's in a crisis, could feel like they could do the same. So as far as me, I have a background as a paramedic and a registered nurse. So I feel that I bring some knowledge of the needs of emergency response to this board. I also deal with the nuts and bolts of inequity across our society as, you know, as a nurse. So I feel like I strike a good balance for the work of this board. I'm also a lifelong resident of Baltimore County, and I see equitable policing as key to, you know, our citizen safety and well-being and our success together as a county. So I thank you all for your consideration and your support.
Well, I thank you very much, Mr. Fitzpatrick, and I first of all like to offer my sincere, heartfelt condolences for the loss of your son. And we thank you so much for your willingness to serve. And thank you so much for your service as a paramedic and a nurse to the community. So I appreciate that very much. Are there any questions or comments from the members?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Councilman Quirk?
Yeah, just very briefly also, yeah, echo your comments. You know, Pete, our sympathy and condolences for sure. And it's been a rough last 12, 18 months for you. We appreciate your service, and we really do. I've known you a long time, I think 12 years now, maybe 13. Very fair, very reasonable. You know, it's funny, since your name has been brought up, I've had some people say you're too pro-police, and then I've had some people say you're just the opposite. So I think that's actually a really good thing. I think you're very fair and balanced. I think you call balls and strikes. I think you'd be a great addition to this board, and happy to write a letter of recommendation for you, and obviously hope to keep in close touch. So thank you for your stepping up and serving the public. It's really going to be a you know, not an always an easy position, but I think you'll serve well, and we really appreciate your public service. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Councilman Quirk. Any additional questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilman Crandall?
Mr. Fitzpatrick, very sorry for the loss of your son. You know, there's very few words to provide any sort of real depth for you when you lose a child. So I'll just leave it at that. So, but moving on, you answered one of my questions already in your statement. I guess my only question to you then would be, this is a new board. The PAB will be brand new to Baltimore County. So what is your vision for the board? Is it impartial judiciary? Is it social activism? What is your vision for the board? How do you see the board's role in the ecosystem of oversight of our police?
Thank you for the question, Councilman. Yeah, I think you know, first off, accountability has to be to a great degree about impartiality. You know, one of my thinking on this, you know, this board, as it came up, is it has a huge potential for, you know, sort of volunteer bias, right? So the sort of person who's going to seek out appointment, you know, probably has an agenda, maybe, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but like either, you know, for, you know, very pro-police, very pro, you know, advocacy, you know, one of the things I was seeking was to provide somebody who could be balanced in that, you know, that can you know, walk that line. So I definitely see, you know, my stance as kind of being, you know, impartial. As far as vision for the board, I think that, you know, some of that is to be developed, right? So we have, you know, work to do in the county. We've had, you know, had a lot of issues with police equity, you know, in our country and in our county. I just hope that we can make those things better. And, you know, the ultimate goal is that we are, you know, all safe as you know, as citizens. But when I say we're all safe, that we are all safe, right? So regardless of where we come from in our, you know, in our background in our society. That answers that.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Fitzpatrick. I appreciate your answer. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Crandall. And I don't mind. I'm going to go a little off script. I think it's important that I get this one part out there. I have been in communication over the last, I don't know how many weeks, with the Fraternal Order of Police leadership. And we've had a lot of conversations, and I will say that they have repeatedly said all they're looking for is a fair and impartial board. So that's all they want, and that's all they are asking for. And I would like to think that, you know, the county executive is providing that and selecting these nominees here. So are there any questions, any further questions or comments from Mr. Fitzpatrick? Yes, Councilman Marks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I join Mr. Fitzpatrick in offering my condolences. The Councilman Quirk's recommendation goes a very long way with me. And thank you for your interest in serving. Um, One question, you're going to be you and the other members of the Accountability Board will be having quarterly meetings with the leadership of the police department. What are some things you're going to be looking for? Some questions you might want to be asking the leadership?
Good question. So I think the biggest thing that I would want to see from the leadership of the police department, and I think we have seen is a lot of transparency, and I want to know that they are coming forth with everything, and I don't have reason to believe that Chief Hyde's not, currently. So that would probably be the biggest thing, is that we are getting as a board a full picture of the experience of of policing in Baltimore County from those people. That sufficiently answers that.
Okay. You can answer this if you want or not. Our staff, I don't want to put you on the spot for anything, but one thing I'm interested in from all the appointees today, I'm going to ask that same question, but also if there's any sort of interaction you want to pass along, positive interaction you may have had with police officers, any other observation you want to provide, I'd certainly be welcome to hear that.
I think as it related to the story that we had like the behavioral crisis folks out a couple of times for my son, and I thank the council for former county executive Moeller putting forth more funding for that. I think it's the kind of resource that is a great use to our community, and it's a great credit to the county that we have it. So the more of it that we could see, I think the better. I can use this moment to advocate for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your service, and look forward to supporting you. Take care.
Any questions or comments? Well, Mr. Fitzpatrick, we have a couple of speakers, and it would appear as though they want to speak about you. So instead of making them wait, we will put them on right now. Ms. Belcastro?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. We have 2 registered speakers for this nominee. Our first speaker is Cindy, and I apologize for not pronouncing your name correctly. Cindy Fakirher. Are you there? You are on as a panelist. Oh, you have to unmute yourself.
And now can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
You did fine. You did
You may
fine
begin.
with the pronunciation. That was fine.
Oh, well, thank you. You may begin your testimony.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Jones and members of the council and nominees for the Police Accountability Board. The Baltimore County Coalition for Police Accountability is a coalition of community members and civil and human rights organizations throughout Baltimore County, working together to reduce the negative impact of over-policing in our communities, eliminate violence and harm by police, and promote transparency and accountability and greater public safety. And as a note, this is coming here because I had no other option than choosing one person, Mr. Fitzgerald, so that is the reason that I'm speaking this in terms of you, but I mean it for all of the nominees. Our members have advocated for the passage of the strongest possible bill to establish the strongest possible Police Accountability Board. Since passage of the mandatory state law in 2021, we were disappointed that a number of PAB components we advocated for were not included, but we appreciated the opportunity to meet with the administration and share our input on the composition of nominees for the Police Accountability Board to ensure the board is civilian-led, especially by civilians from communities most disproportionately impacted by police misconduct. From the list of nominees, it appears that the PAB's membership tries to reflect racial, gender identity, sexual orientation, and cultural diversity of the county. We also urge the administration and the council to include members with a range of professional or lived experiences in areas including but not limited to mental health status, disability, substance abuse disorders, immigration, criminal justice, reentering citizens, and those living below the poverty line. To the degree that the current nominees do not include all these categories, we urge the board members to keep these perspectives uppermost in their policies and decisions. We'd like to note that while Bill 2422 allows for former police officers and those closely affiliated with police officers to serve on our county's PAB, doing so does go against best practices, especially as law enforcement is represented on the Administrative Charging Commission. So a police perspective is well represented in the review and advise process. We're aware that one of the nominees is a former Baltimore City police officer. While we have been assured that his background and experience is well suited to the objectives of the PAB, we caution that even an appearance of bias will undermine the credibility of the board, which is so necessary for its effectiveness. This new Police Accountability Board must be civilian-led and a clear departure from the police policing themselves. The Baltimore County Coalition for Police Accountability will continue to champion police accountability. We will continue to be present, and we offer our resources to you as we work to develop community oversight of police in Baltimore County. We sincerely hope the new board will result in greater transparency and accountability and in greater public safety for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Ms. Belcastro.
Certainly, Mr. Chair, our second speaker that registered is Peter Richkes.
Ms. Richards, do you have something to say particularly about Mr. Fitzpatrick, or would you like to wait till everybody's done?
I do, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Go right ahead. Yes, go right ahead.
Good afternoon, Chairman Jones and members of the council. For the record, my name is Peter Richkes, and I live in West Towson. I'm one of the 5 co-administrators of Indivisible Towson, one of the many organizations that make up the Baltimore County Coalition for Police Accountability. Indivisible Towson is a progressive grassroots organization that uses civic engagement and collaboration with like-minded organizations and individuals to further our basic aims of responsive and accountable government at all levels, social, environmental, and economic justice, and policies and laws that promote and protect the rights of all people. Although Towson is part of our name, our more than 600 members come from every part of the county, which is why we say Indivisible Towson, from the county seat to the county line. As a member of the Coalition for Police Accountability, and taking my cue from Chairman Jones, I do say ditto to Cindy Farquhar's statement, while adding a few comments of my own. Pete Fitzpatrick and my daughter went to Catonsville High School together, and she reintroduced us some years ago. So I do know about his lifelong service to others and add my endorsement to Councilman Quirks. In fact, from what I have learned of the candidates, all of them have great potential to be excellent Police Accountability Board members. I believe that the vast majority of our law enforcement officers work and sacrifice every day to perform their jobs to the best of their ability, and I salute them. For those who do not live up to their oath, the PAB brings a welcome civilian oversight. I congratulate all of the PAB nominees. You were selected from the 47 individuals who applied. Thank you to all 47 of those for being willing to serve on this important new board. To the nominees, as the first members of Baltimore County's first Police Accountability Board, you will be paving new ground for Baltimore County. You will have a unique opportunity to help build the most effective and most respected PAB in the state. There will be challenges, I'm sure. That's why the Baltimore County Coalition for Police Accountability lobbied hard for you to receive a stipend for serving on the PAB. We are glad we were successful in making sure the PAB is one of the handful of paid boards and commissions. Finally, thank you to the administration and the council for aiming for an equitable demographic makeup of the roster of PAB nominees. 44% are female, 54% are male, 2% non-binary, 46% African American, 46% Caucasian non-Hispanic, 5% Asian or Pacific Islander, 3% Hispanic. Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Richards. Moving right along, now we will hear from Ms. Linda Shields.
Mr. Chairman Jones,
Yes.
I just want to add something. The legislation required political diversity. Two of these nominees, excuse me, two of the nominees are Republican. And that's, you know, I wish there had been a little more diversity, but I'm willing to give every member of this board a shot. And I'm hopeful that all of them are fair, that they do not approach this position as being super activist, but follow the law we've set down and be fair and impartial. But I bring that up because the diversity never seems to mention political diversity, and it should. And I'd hope this board would be a little more reflective of the county's political diversity, but it seems like we've had a lot of good nominees, and I'm looking forward to getting everything started with this group. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councilman Marks. Now we'll move on to Ms. Linda Shields.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, everyone. My name is Linda Shields, and first, Chairman Jones, thank you for inviting me to participate. I too would like to offer my condolences to Mr. Fitzpatrick and his family before I begin. I thank you for consideration and for nomination on what I believe is an extremely important board of this county, and one that could make a very big difference in relationships between police officers and all the citizens. A little about myself is a native of Baltimore City and the 6th of 7 children, born to a steel worker and a domestic worker. I had the best parents on this planet. And I strive, and they did strive for education and good citizenship. Good citizenship was a must in our family. I've been a Sunday school teacher for over 50 years. I was educated in Baltimore City Public Schools and a graduate of Frederick Douglass High School, a class of 68. I graduated from UB School of Business and UB Law School, class of 98. I was a former administrative trial board attorney for Baltimore City for 12 years and had experience with the process of the investigations through charges and through the rules of conduct and whatever the punishment was for misconduct among officers. I was always one to strive for fairness to all parties to ensure that the citizens are confident in their police department, expecting all to be held to a high standard of accountability and respect, and to ensure that the department is administrating these laws and rules fairly and impartially across the board, that investigations are done fairly and thoroughly, and that the decisions related to the reports of police misconduct among its officers is done without any type of bias. I would entertain any questions at this time. I don't have any questions about this board. I believe that it's clear that our mission will be to ensure fairness and accountability and to strengthen the relationship in the community among officers and its citizens.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shields.
Certainly.
Again, we thank you so much for your willingness to serve. And are there any questions or comments from the members?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Patoka?
Hi, Ms. Shields. How are you doing?
I'm well. Good to see you.
It's good to see you as well. I remember we spoke on your front porch this summer.
Yes, we did.
About this and other issues. And I just want to thank you for your interest in being part of the Police Accountability Board. I think you'd make an excellent member. I would urge my colleagues to view your application favorably, and am delighted that you have interest in this. But just want to say thank you, and I know that you'll do well and do a great job.
Thank you for your comments. So kind of you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Councilman Patoka. Any additional questions or comments from the members? Councilman Marks, and then I believe I heard Councilman Crandall. So Marks, then Crandall.
Thank you very much. Just repeating my question. What what are some of the things you're going to be looking at during these quarterly meetings with the police leadership? And if you would like to respond, any sort of interactions with the police you've had, particularly positive. A lot of folks we've talked to discuss their involvement with neighborhood watch programs and such, and anything you want to add. But I'm really interested particularly in those meetings.
I'll answer your questions in the order that you presented
Sure.
them. I would hope that at the meetings, in addition to Mr. Fitzpatrick's comments about transparency, I would hope that we could see statistics that would demonstrate what is currently happening in the department among its officers, to look for patterns of behavior, areas that would, in my opinion, need more attention be given to them because of what the reports are revealing. Also, to see if there are weaknesses or a possibility that there needs to be improvement in any of the rules of conduct and or how the policies are being administrated. I would look to see if we could see improvements being made, that where there may have been numbers that were higher in one type of misconduct over another, what actions were taken in order to address those matters to see that we could turn the situation around if possible. And if there were issues that were unaddressed and the numbers continue to rise, then certainly that should be brought to the attention of the leadership so that something can be done that would be visible and notable to turn those matters around. Regarding my interaction with police officers, I have never had a negative reaction with a Baltimore County police officer to date, whether it was something non-police related or police related. We've had, as Mr. Pertoka will tell you, many accidents near our particular home because of where we're located. And each time one did arrive to investigate, he or she was very compassionate with us because of our losses, but very helpful to ensure that we got the help that we needed so that we could get the matter taken care of and that the parties were, cordial to one another and gave one another information that they needed. Even in shopping centers and in traffic, I can even say I was pulled over one time, but I was treated very fairly, and I didn't realize I went through a red light, but the officer understood that where the light is located does cause issues and just cautioned me to pay more attention, which I could really appreciate the way he handled the matter. So I've never had a negative encounter with the Baltimore County police officers, and I thank them for what they are doing with the county in that regard.
Okay, thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman Marks and Councilman Crandall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Shields, thank you for your willingness to serve. I think in one of your comments to Councilman Marks, you sort of broadened the scope of what I believe the PAB to be, but we can discuss that, I guess, at another time. I view it as a quasi judicial body with clear impartiality going from case to case, not necessarily a consultant to the police department. But you have your own vision. I appreciate you putting words to it. But I will ask you a question about your work history. So you were a prosecutor of police in Baltimore City, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so how does that experience play with this next step in your service to the public? So we've had the word impartiality sort of mentioned here. I think that you are the only applicant that actually has judicial experience in a courtroom dealing with police officers. So I want to ask you how that experience plays into what you perceive your role on the board to be.
Yes, thank you for the question. I believe that uniquely what happened each time I had a case to prosecute against an officer, it required that I would pay very close attention to his side of the matter. I had to pay very close attention to the evidence on both sides and what a clear understanding of the situation was, so that I didn't perceive anything based on just my having to prosecute and just on the charges alone, but to look at the charges, to ensure that they were leveled fairly, that the wording was correct, and then to look at what the officer was offering as rebuttal evidence and a defense to why he or she rendered the conduct that he or she did. It was, and most often isn't just a clear matter of looking at the facts that are presented in isolation of what the officer may present as some type of explanation for his or her actions. But I think what really helped me over the past 12 years, no two cases are alike, although some of the charges seem quite similar. What I did learn is that facts do matter and defense does matter, and that a totality of the circumstances does matter. And in all fairness to the officer who's been charged, and I believe that the charges were charged fairly, in all fairness to him and her on the street, sometimes there are matters that will play into how an officer may respond. And I think those things have to be taken into consideration, which I don't think if I were outside of the process, I would have been so understanding of that factor. So I do think, having been part of the process, I'm very capable of looking at both sides and looking into what the charges were and what the facts in defense as well as prosecuting the officer on those charges were.
Thank you, Ms. Shields. I appreciate your answer.
Certainly.
Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Councilman Crandall. Any additional questions or comments from the members? Thank you very much, Ms. Shields. And again, thank you for your willingness to serve. Next, we'll move on to Bishop Ralph Dennis.
Thank you, Chairman Jones. How are you today?
Oh, doing wonderful.
To the entire council and to my fellow nominees today, I'm glad to be here. My name is Ralph Dennis. I am a bishop in the Lord's Church. I've pastored Kingdom Worship Center for 35 years. In 2013, that responsibility inured to my middle son. He and his wife are now pastoring that church. That's located at 6419 York Road in South Towson. And we also have a location on Red Branch Road in Columbia. I spent about 30 years as a bivocational person in corporate America, working for Exxon Company USA before it became Exxon Mobil. And also I spent quite a few years with Frito-Lay and the Sara Lee Corporation. I look forward to serving the PAB, particularly on this ground level, because I feel very honestly that I'm a pretty strong change agent and have a pretty good understanding of what constructive social change looks like. I believe with all my heart that police are much needed in society. My God, where would our society be without them? And yet, by the same token, we know that in the mix, there's going to be some times when things are not followed properly, procedures are not followed properly, things are not done correctly. And when those things come, we've got to be able to properly adjudicate them and vet them. I would not want to necessarily be a policeman because it requires such spontaneity for decision making and what have you. But by the same token, when we give persons that kind of responsibility, we pray to the best of their ability they will perform it dutifully and with great sense of accountability. What else can I share with you? I see the mission of this PAB as to ensure public accountability and transparency over the powers exercised by sworn officers of the police department. As a vision, I sort of see it to reimagine public safety and to understand how we can achieve the mission and the vision. I believe we must understand the history, we must understand values, we must understand the work, how training takes place, what the SOPs are, protocols, management styles, training and retraining, those kind of things as well. I believe that the PAB formation that we're currently in is very crucial, that we understand also such things as core values. When we understand those things, I think we can better uh, uh, try to understand what the policemen are required to do, what the citizens are expecting them to do, and how to create the balance there between our citizens and our police force. That harmony needs to be there, I believe, like never before. I think we need to find ways to bridge the gaps between the police force and our communities. So that's what I offer at this point. I'm still in ministry, though I'm not pastoring. I still oversee churches in the United States, in South Africa, and in Kenya. As a matter of fact, I'll be leaving for South Africa on Monday for missions there. It gives you a little bit about me.
All right. Thank you, Bishop Dennis. And
You're so welcome.
Miss,
are there any questions or
Mr.
comments?
Chairman?
Councilman Catch,
Yeah,
I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna help you out now. He
Oh,
has
you
a
are?
bachelor's. He has a bachelor's degree in mathematics.
Oh, I know that. Yeah, oh,
Go right ahead.
Yeah, we had a first of all, I want to thank the bishop for his willingness to meet with me, and we had a long, I think, very productive conversation. I am a little jealous of the fact that he gets to travel so much. And when I heard that he worked for Sara Lee, you know, I used to be addicted to those frozen cakes, but I don't think they make them anymore, do they?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure. Oh,
I'm not. I haven't
oh,
been there for a while.
right. Okay. But anyhow, we had a good conversation, and you know, I was very honest with him. I was not familiar with him or his work, but understand that his work in the community is in what I call South Towson, near WBAL and that area. There's a giant uh, grocery store there, and he works with the community in back of the giant, and I believe to the south of the county office building that's there. Am I correct? And
That's correct. That the
yeah,
Department of Health and Human
right,
Services is right across the parking lot. Matter of fact, they share our parking lot with us.
right.
Yeah.
And I was very happy to hear him say that they utilize county services, whether it be the Department of Health, the Department of Social Services, the police, etc. Very, very happy to hear that because, well, I'm not going to get into my philosophy of things that I think the county should be doing, but uh, I also expressed great concern to him about the state of some of our schools and the fact that you know, some of our neighborhoods, public safety is not as good as it should be. And as I said, we had a very good conversation. I We talked a lot about the situation that policemen are in to have to make a spontaneous decision and the need for training. And you know, I'm so happy that as a council that we did increase the amount of training that we offer to our police. We also talked about the fact that not everyone is necessarily suited to be a police officer. Not everyone is suited to be a teacher. And sometimes all the training in the world is not going to make someone be able to react spontaneously in the correct way, just like teaching. Well, I always say either you have it or you don't. And I hope Councilman Marks has it. But anyhow, laugh, Councilman Marks, laugh. Okay. So, so I was very impressed with the bishop, and I didn't know that Councilman Jones knows you, which is a negative in my book. But anyhow, and then let me just say that the bishop is ready and willing to come and address our police community relations meetings. And I think that is tremendous step in the right direction. As I told him, this commission, in order for this county to be able to attract more officers, because we do have a shortage, we need to, this commission has the job of getting the confidence of the communities and of the police. That's vital. And we talked about the importance of community engagement with the police, with the local precincts. So again, I had not met him, really didn't know anything about him because he does his work in Councilman Marx's district. So I thank you again for our conversation. Look forward to meeting with you again in the near future. And thank you for your willingness to serve on this board.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for the recommendation.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
He says,
Yes, Councilman Marks.
Okay, sorry. Thank you very much. Indeed, I have worked with the Kingdom Worship Center many times over the past 12 years. It is an outstanding resource in the community, and I want to thank you and everyone associated with that church for the good work you do in Towson. I will just again repeat the question I'm asking of everyone: how you would approach the quarterly meetings of this board, and if you have anything you want to share about any interactions with the board. I'm mainly interested in that first point.
I sort of see the board as an ongoing kind of development in as much as this is in its infancy stages right now, that perhaps this first council or this first board will be very instrumental in setting a foundation for how this thing will live out in the future. I'm a futurist, so I believe, and I may be wrong about this, but I believe that setting the foundation is so critical that I look forward to helping the board to create an infrastructure that will work to the extent that we can do our job, or the policemen can do their job, the community can relate to the policemen in a way that's equitable, that's fair, that's transparent, that's truthful and honest. Those are the kind of things that I really would love to talk about. I've mentioned earlier a value system. Values, I believe, are very important to people. But the thing that I think I really would like to see is how can we develop a way to create stronger relationships that will bridge the gap between the police and the community. Relationship building, to me, is often the answer to how we get to understand each other. If I don't know you, it's hard for me to communicate with you, to understand you. So I see, and again, this meeting, if this board is totally judicial, then some of that probably will not be on our desk to do, or in front of us to do. But if it's more than that, I think that, particularly here at the ground level, we can offer some real thought to how we can better the future. In terms of me having any kinds of police concerns or effects in the past, none at all. Only thing I've gotten or had problem with police is that he caught me a couple of times speeding, and that was years ago. I can't even say that for now. My record is clear.
I don't want people to go in here and talk about all that sort of stuff. But mainly interested, there are a lot of positive things going on in our communities.
Yes, sir.
And that's what I'm particularly interested in. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman Marks. Thank you, Bishop Dennis. Any additional questions or comments from the members? Okay, thank you very much. We will move on to John Chambers.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I guess I am the either potential lone police officer or one of that's applied for this position. Um, and speaking about myself, I am a retired Baltimore City police officer, 24 plus years. I came up in the time where I seen the change from where the department was to where it is now. And as the pastor spoke earlier about core values, we have a issue with core values right now when it comes to policing. Core values can't be taught. That's something I believe that's something that you're brought up with. And with the background that I came up with the officers that we had in our neighborhoods and in our communities, they learned and became part of the community. They got out of their cars, they went and they spoke to the people in the neighborhood, not just responded to 911 calls. That's the kind of values that I came up with the police department in my time with the police department. And I can only speak on myself. We understand and we all aware of the police misconduct in Baltimore City, but it's not all of them. And when you see it in the news, it looks like it's everybody. But when you really get the big picture, in the big scheme of it, it's just a handful. But I applied because I wanted to give a better perspective from the inside as a police officer and to the board. So if there's situations that may come about, I could say, okay, from this perspective, being a police officer, this is what my experience was. I believe with the board being what it is right now and where we are as far as putting this board together, I am hoping that they will also provide just provide. I understand there's something with the police, it's a civilian police academy. With that, they would give them a better perspective, showing them like through simulators or things like that to show how things can happen in a snap as a police officer. That could help give the board a better understanding of when you're in that quick situation, sometimes you don't have a lot of time to think. It will help you get I believe it will help you get a better understanding of what the police deal with. When you're dealing with the officer, the individual that's the bad officer, then that's where we come in and we deal with those situations as they come. But I believe that all of us, with putting our heads together, we can give a better perspective from the different walks of life that we come from. I come from a family where I've had professionals. I have a brother who's had substance abuse issues. So Mr. Fitzpatrick, I can, sympathize with him. And dealing with that, and because I have people from various walks of life in my family, and things that we had to experience, just dealing with that, it helps me get a better perspective from the civilian side. End of the day, I'm just a civilian right now. I used to be a police officer, but right now I'm a civilian of Baltimore County. And I just want to see this county succeed. I want things to happen in this county or prevent things that's happening in the city to happening in the county. And I just want things to come, I just want things to be, hit things off before it becomes a problem. And if we could do this with this board, I'm all in, I'm all for it. I am, in my experience, I want things to be in a better perspective, but I will give a fair answer, whether it's right or wrong, what the police have done.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Are there any questions or comments from the members?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilman Crandall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your service to Baltimore City and the public at large, Mr. Chambers. What would you say to those that would say because of your history as a law enforcement officer, you were police, that brings a level of bias to the board? I know you've had to think about that type of question.
Oh, absolutely. And I knew that would be a concern when I applied for this position. And the only thing I can say, I can just, just reiterate what I said before. At this point, I'm a citizen and I've experienced the good and the bad in police departments, in law enforcement as a whole. And even with knowing that, I know there's, just in any line of work, there's good and bad in anybody. So I understand that you could have a good officer, you can have a bad officer. I'm not going to side just because of my, my past position as a law enforcement. I'm not going to side as, straight across the board with the police. If it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong.
Thank you for your answer, Mr. Chambers. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Councilman Katz.
Yes, Mr. Chambers, I thank you for your willingness to serve on this board. And I'm very happy that we're going to have a former police officer on this board, because it's always beneficial to have someone on the board that has experienced the profession that we're looking at. My personal view is that our police force is fantastic. I have, great confidence in the job that they do. And as I said earlier with Bishop Dennis, your job as a board member is to help our communities and the police to have confidence in this system of discipline that's being set up. I mean, that's so important. And again, I thank you very much for your willingness to serve. And I feel optimistic, especially with you there, with your experience.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Marks.
I agree with Councilman Katz. You were a very, very good selection, and I'm really happy someone like you is serving on this panel. I'm not going to ask the second part of my question because obviously you've lived it. If you have any thoughts on what the board meeting should be like, I'd be interested in hearing those.
As the pastor spoke earlier, I believe I agree with him. I believe initially this is pretty much grassroots. We started from the beginning, and I believe that we would basically set a standard and find out exactly what we need to do in investigating cases. I also think that we should get a better understanding as individuals where we come from. And we've heard from a couple of the members here that's applied for the position, but I think in talking with one another, we can get a better understanding from each other to find out where we come from and where our experiences are. Ms. Shields with the legal side and things like that, where she's had to investigate cases. I think we can just put all our resources together to help come to reasonable conclusions when we investigate in cases that may come about.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Quirk.
Yeah, nice and easy, Mr. Chambers. We really do appreciate you stepping up to be on this board. I'm really impressed by all the members. I think it's well put together. And I also think it's a real strength to have Mr. Chambers, listening to him speak, and also understanding that he really understands this in a way that none of us will really truly understand without serving in the police and really having those experiences. And so I really think this is a strength to the committee and to the advisory board. And I definitely appreciate your service, Mr. Chambers, in the past, and appreciate your service to this advisory board. And I think I'm very impressed by the people that have stepped up to really help. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Quirk. Any additional questions or comments? I will, Mr. Chambers, how long have I known you?
Oh gosh, I can't count the years, sir. It's been a number of years.
I tell you in full disclosure, I know Mr. Chambers, and I know him well. I know his wife. We've been friends for many, many years. I've been to his house. I've eaten his food. He makes a lot of nice food, and he's a good guy. And I have nothing but the utmost confidence in him and his willingness to serve on the committee, on the board, I should say. And I'm sure he will bring nothing but value to the board. And I have nothing but the utmost confidence in him. And I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that. Full disclosure, he's a personal friend, and I've known him for more years than we probably can count. And I think I met you because you were a partner with my cousin.
That's right. That's right.
And that's how far back that goes. He too is retired after many years, and you had a very impressive career in the police department.
Yes.
And served on executive details as well as the SWAT team and some other things. So I believe you have a very broad base of experience as it relates to policing. And I have nothing but the utmost confidence in you. Did I miss anything on your career?
No, I was in the Marine unit. I was on police boats for about 7 years.
Okay.
And working with one of the mayors. That's when I met Izzy, Mr. Batoka. I don't think he remembers me, but I met him back then.
I do. I remember you well, Mr. Chambers. It's good to see you.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Mr.
Yes,
Chair,
sir.
at this point, I do have to question the company that Mr. Chamber keeps. On the record.
He was doing so well.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, like Councilman Crandall, I want to assure you, Mr. Chambers, I will not hold it against you.
Yes, sir.
With that, your friendship with the chairman of the council and with the councilman from the 2nd District. I assure you, I will be very objective, and I will support you.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. Despite all that.
Despite it all.
Despite it all. And it's a serious issue to me.
I am sure. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chambers, for your willingness to serve and your past service as well. Now we move on to Francis Waters.
Council Chair.
Yes.
This is Linda Shields. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I did make an appointment for 6 o'clock this evening. I was advised that the board, it would go to about 5. So I apologize that I won't be able to stay on any longer. I'll try to get on in my car, but I do have to start moving towards the Owings Mills area at this time. I do apologize for having to leave.
No problem, considering Owings Mills is where the sun rises and sets. We understand.
Wrong.
That's where my appointment is.
It's the third.
It's been a pleasure being before the board, and I appreciate your consideration and your nomination as well. And I look forward to hearing from you all again very soon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Francis Ward. I know one.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Ward, I spoke with, I don't think Mr. Ward is on. I don't want to, is he?
No, he is
Right.
not on.
Miss O'Neill with the executive's office alerted me earlier today that Mr. Ward was having a family emergency and would not be able to be on this afternoon. So we decided to defer that particular one until the next council meeting on September 27th and October 3rd, if that is okay.
Yes, that is fine. We'll move on to Reverend Claire Petersburg.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Jones, and thank you, members of the council, for your consideration. I was called to the Towson Unitarian Universalist Church in 1999. From 2003 to 2014, I served as a volunteer chaplain for the Baltimore County Police and Fire Departments. In this role, I offered invocations and benedictions at the police academy. This entailed wearing a captain's uniform, and I want you to consider that in terms of the optics that we heard we should be concerned about by Ms. Farquhar and Ms. Richards. But I appreciated the continuing education the department offered to the chaplains in subjects like PTSD for veterans returning from Iraq. And the most meaningful aspect of my service was going on ride-alongs for death notifications, and often these were for suicides. And I remember one time when the department delayed a little bit so that they could find a translator who spoke Russian because the family of the deceased didn't speak English. They were from Russia. My mentor at the Baltimore County Police Department was Colonel Kim Ward. She died 2 years ago. She didn't just practice the golden rule of doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. She practiced the platinum rule of doing unto others as they would have you do unto them. After a little over a decade, I ended my volunteer service as a chaplain. And then in 2016, my congregation put up Black Lives Matters banners. They were vandalized 10 times. Each time the police department was called, they professionally wrote a report. But it says something about Baltimore County that those signs were vandalized 10 times. And the congregation I serve was not alone in experiencing vandalism. Maryland Presbyterian Church also experienced vandalism of its signs supporting diversity. The memory of Colonel Ward's leadership grounded in the Platinum Rule and the growing awareness over the past decade of how white supremacy is indeed the water that we swim in led me to apply for the Police Accountability Board, because institutions from congregations to police departments are dealing with how to hold themselves accountable for systemic injustice. Now, I have to say, when people in my congregation heard the word accountable, they reacted strongly. They thought it was equated with punishment or shame or legal action. But accountability for me is fundamentally about building trust through communication and negotiation of needs, and the opportunity to repair harm, and the chance to prove that we are worthy of trust again. Clearly, from the deaths of people like Robert Johnson Jr. and Corinne Gaines and Christopher Brown, and financial settlements with families for wrongful deaths, we need new strategies for addressing acts of racial harm or harm caused by use of excessive force by police officers, or a lack of training in how to de-escalate mental health crises. So this is why I applied to the board. I will tell you that after I applied, I listened to the community input meetings, and when I was interviewed, I shared my concern that I am white. I am not part of the 35% of the population that makes 65% of the complaints. I am 61 years old. I'm not young. So I think people were saying they wished for a younger person because those are the people who were most directly impacted. And, you know, I did point out it could look like a conflict of interest that I served as a volunteer chaplain, even though I was not employed by the police department. I know Councilman Marks wants to hear my vision for the board. My understanding is that our primary responsibility is to receive complaints of police misconduct filed by the public. And then we need to figure out what to do next to uphold our charge to provide accountability. So that's who I am.
Okay. Councilwoman Bevins?
Thank you
very much.
Thank you, Chairman Jones. Reverend, does your congregation call you Reverend Claire?
Yes, they do. They call me Rev Claire, actually.
Rev Claire. Okay. We've never had the pleasure of meeting, and up until now, or having a conversation about this. And I have to tell you, reading over, you know, and some of you already mentioned some of your interests and experiences with the police department and with the public, you have, in my mind, the perfect balance, because you are where rubber meets the road. You're out there with the people, whether they are straight, LGBTQ, whether they are Black, whether they're Hispanic. You're there for the people. And then your experiences with also the police department and the fire department. You kind of had me at Colonel Ward. She was a mentor to myself as well. and she gave me a lot of good advice when I was, before I was even elected, just about being a woman in government. And of course, she was a woman in the upper ranks for a very long time by herself. And you are so true. She lived. They say, if you preach it, teach it, preach it. She did. She did. So for me, I think you're a wonderful candidate. And in all honesty, look, you answer to a much higher power than the county council, the county executive. So I'll leave it at that. But I want to thank you for being willing to do this because, you're already a very busy person. And, when you sit on any type of board or commission, especially one that's new, it takes a lot of time. So someone to have given their time and talents for something like this, I believe you have to have a passion for it and a willingness to do it. So I'm very grateful that you applied, and I will support you wholeheartedly. And you're right. We have a wonderful police department, just a wonderful, wonderful police department. But we've also had issues with the police department and our citizens. And it would just be so nice to figure out how to overcome some of those issues that we've had in the past and move forward. And I believe that is what we're going to get out of this board. So thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman Bevins. Any additional questions or comments from the members?
Sure, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Crandall.
Councilwoman Bevins, I think that we all answer to the same higher power that the Reverend does. Maybe not on a daily basis that she might, but I was sort of taken aback by that comment. Neither here nor there. So I had the great fortune of knowing Colonel Ward. I actually have her challenge coin that her colleagues put together after she passed away. That the challenge coin is in my office. So Reverend Petersburg, in looking through your application, there are things that sort of stuck out to me that I feel compelled to ask you about. So you mentioned, having high school and college friends who were pulled over for no other reason than the color of their skin. And I know that that's happened throughout the United States, but I would say that you didn't go to high school or college in Baltimore County. So I'm wondering where the Baltimore County Police Department sort of fits into that. And I also want to ask you about your comment about dismantling racism and the comment about white supremacy. Can you go a little bit further than that? So I go back to my initial statement that I made with one of your potential colleagues, in that this board, in my vision of it anyway, is that it is a judicial or quasi-judicial board, not a platform for social activism. And I want to get your response to my statement. Thank you, Reverend.
So I don't think I will be, I do not envision coming to Police Accountability Board meetings waving banners or chanting slogans, sir. But I do think that from what one of the gifts that I bring, I don't bring all the diversity I wish I did. One of the gifts I bring is listening. And what I heard from those community input meetings is that 65% of complaints come from 35% of citizens. And there was the implication that they came from minority communities. Certainly, I have not experienced being pulled over. I have not experienced, like Robert Johnson's family, a family member being 17-year-old being shot who was part of ROTC. So I do bring a passion for justice, and racial justice is part of that, as we've been hearing across the United States for several years. And if that's not what you want on this board, I will be happy to recuse myself.
Reverend Petersburg, imply that you needed to recuse yourself. I'm just trying to understand. I'm trying to understand where you're coming from with respect to your potential position on this board. That's all.
I do think accountability when there are a disproportionate number of citizens, and I mean, the language of that you passed was about looking for patterns or trends. That's one of the charges of this board. That is something I would feel is the role of this board, to identify trends in the disciplinary process. But if there are trends in the complaints, I think we ought to look at those in order to figure out how to change the policies.
Very good. Thank you, Reverend. I appreciate your answers.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Councilman Catch.
Yeah, I just would like to make the comment that I've seen statistics from other jurisdictions in the United States, and it does concern me that 65% of the complaints are made by 35% of the population. But let me just say that in many other jurisdictions, those numbers are a lot worse, a lot worse. And so I think that our Baltimore County Police are headed in the right direction. And it's my hope that with this board, that the statistics will be 35%, 35%, or whatever the population is of the minority group. So we do have problems in this country, but I think Baltimore County Police are excellent. I think they're very good, and and they're headed in the right direction. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Catch. Are there any additional questions or comments?
Chairman,
Councilman Marks.
I would just like to thank Ms. Petersboro for pretty much answering my question. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, we thank you, Rev. Petersberger, for your willingness to serve, and thank you for answering the questions. And now, if there's no additional questions, we will move on to Dawn Dishon Fear. Is that right?
Yes.
How did I do?
Almost perfect. Close enough.
Okay.
I am a very proud resident of Dundalk, which is Councilman Crandall's district. Very proud. I was educated in Baltimore County Public Schools. I received an AA from the Community College of Baltimore County. I did attend some time at UMBC, but had to defer my registration because of some family issues. I'm employed full-time as a personal assistant for a forensic psychologist that specializes in high conflict divorces. And in those cases at work, we do not presume anyone is lying. We also do not presume anyone is telling the truth. So I feel like that's a very important perspective to bring to any report of alleged misconduct, because there's always three sides to every story. I do not have any personal I've never been involved with the police in an employment capacity. No one in my immediate family has. So I also feel like that's a very unique perspective to have someone 100% removed from the law enforcement community to come in and give a fresh set of eyes to things.
Well, thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the members? Councilwoman Bevins?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to ask Dawn, are you Steve DeJohn's daughter?
I am. He calls you his girl, Kathy.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Please give him my best.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Crandall?
Thank you. We have a celebration of redheads. Is that what that was? Ms. Fior, you and I know each other personally. Know your husband well, and I know that of both your and your husband's contributions to our community. And when I saw your name as an applicant and a nominee, I was wondering, geez, whiz, what more can this family do? I don't know if there is a day of rest for either one of you. But I think that you bring a fresh sort of perspective in that you aren't law enforcement. You don't have a history with law enforcement, at least none that I know of. So I know Councilman Marks will ask you about that. But I'll ask you two questions. When the Police Accountability Board became public, what compelled you to apply? And then what is the same question as the other nominees, to the other nominees. What is your vision of the Police Accountability Board?
I'm going to start with the second one because that's what I remember. My vision is to improve the relationship between law enforcement and the communities they serve. If the public trusts the police more, the police will feel more comfortable to do their job as assigned. And that will create safer communities. And I also hope that improving the police force will help with recruitment because I do know how short-staffed they are. What can you repeat your first question? I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. So the first question was, when you found that the PAB, it was made public and the county was taking applications, what compelled you to put your name in as an applicant?
I believe that public safety is one of the most important divisions of government because they literally keep everyone safe. If anything is wrong, your first thought is to call 911. I am the exact opposite of someone you would want to be on the police force. My own shadow scares me. So I recognize how important public safety is. Everyone looks to them for help.
Okay. Thank you, Dawn. I'll just call you by your first name.
Fine.
Are you hyphenated?
I am.
Okay, so that's how Councilwoman Evans called you out.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay. Well, thank you for your answer. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Turn it back to you.
You're more than welcome, Councilman Marks.
Thank you very much. Again, thank you to you and your family for, I know, the many things you're involved with. I'll just repeat the same questions I've asked almost all the nominees. First, what do you think should be brought up at the quarterly meetings of the PAB? And secondly, any experiences you'd like to share regarding your interactions with the police? It doesn't have to be something negative that you don't want to repeat, but anything positive you want to share with us.
Number one, I have no idea because this is a brand new board. I don't know. I know it would be quarterly meetings, but I don't know what the structure will be. And I literally have zero knowledge about the investigative process, possible repercussions to police officers that are charged with misconduct, repeat offenders, things like that. So I think the initial meeting would be me asking incessant questions for things other people might already know. And number two, I had the unfortunate incident of having to call 911 about a month ago. I was exercising in my neighborhood and was bit by a dog who was being walked by a man that did not own the dog and did not have identification. I did not know what to do, so I called 911 and the police officers arrived, and embarrassingly enough, the dog had bit me on my butt cheek. So I did not, the two male officers that arrived, they were nothing short of professional with that whole situation.
Okay. And thank you. And it's okay not to know everything, right? That's
No.
fine. We're all
Yes.
human beings. We grow into these positions. I am looking for nominees to this board who are going to follow the law, and who are going to have an open mind and be fair. And I want to thank everyone for testifying today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Marks, any additional questions or comments? All right, thank you, Dawn. And now you're more than welcome. Thank you for your willingness to serve. We'll move on to Carol White.
Good morning, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever we are. So I am a homeowner in Parkville, a social worker. I currently work in adult protective services. I have 5 years of protective services working with closely with the police, helping vulnerable populations. For about a year was children, and about 3 years was vulnerable adults. In this role, I work with police jointly in investigations. So that needs to be, upfront. We investigate allegations of abuse that have been caused by caretakers and family members, and sometimes we take these allegations to the state's attorney as needed. As for your question that I know Councilman Markey will ask, I working closely with the Elder Services and the police department. I've worked really close with the Elder Financial Crimes Unit, and we've recovered hundreds of thousands of dollars in that unit. But my role here in the board would be more focused as a resident of Parkville, as a resident of Baltimore County, and as a social worker. So my interest is similar to most of what other people have said, impartial board member who utilizes lived experiences and the ethics of my social worker license. I think my investigative skills, being in APS and CPS, have really provided me the way to work with offenders and people who are given a false report of being offended or of being an offender. My vision is to visualize the results of internal affairs investigations and to use this board to help shine public light on the actual punishments that police face when misconduct does occur, and how to maintain mental health services of our officers when false reports of misconduct are made against them. As for the meeting with the police, I would say how leadership engages with police, with the officers, how leadership engages with the officers when misconduct occurs, what supportive services are provided to officers, and what happens when leadership disagrees with the board's results.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments?
Chair.
Councilman Marks?
I just want to thank you. That was a very thoughtful response. And I want to thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Any additional questions or comments? All right. Thank you very much, Carol White. And we certainly appreciate you taking the time to join us this afternoon and your willingness to serve. Next, we'll move on to Ijira Rolling Ford.
Good evening.
Good
Can
evening.
you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I just want to say thank you for the nomination and thank you for everyone who was in attendance. I agreed with most, if not all, of the other nominees. Little background. I was born and raised in New York City, so I just came to Baltimore County in 2014. I am a community service individual. I'm constantly looking for ways to improve my community and act as a liaison between citizens and government institutions. I currently hold the position of president of Kings Park Homeowners Association, as well as the communications chair for the Randallstown NAACP. I recently served as treasurer for the Park Middle Magnet School PTA, soon to be in another PTA role at Newtown High School. And I'm a member of the Liberty Road Task Force. For over 20 years, my 9 to 5 has been as an employee at national and international law firms. where I work on highly sensitive information related to corporations as well as government officials. Reason for applying for the PAB. Well, first of all, one of my responsibilities and my other roles is to attend various community meetings. And so I happened to attend the meeting regarding the PAB. And for me, I kind of felt like it wasn't attended as well as it should have been. And so became concerned that maybe someone like me would not be represented on the board. And so that was my initial reason for applying. I welcome any questions.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the members?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Patoka?
Ms. Rollingford, it was good to see you last week on the Liberty Road Task Force meeting. And thank you for your input and your interest in that, and also your interest in the PAB. So just from seeing the things that you do and the interest you have, I think that speaks well to your belief in that we can be a better county if we all participate in our community. And I appreciate the things you do to participate in our community. So thank you, and I wish you well in this.
Thank you.
Sure. Any additional questions or comments from the members? Councilman Marks?
Do you have any thoughts on the questions I've asked nearly every person about the meetings? And I think you've shared a little bit of your experience, but just the meetings of the PAB, what you're looking for?
I agree with a lot of, again, what some of my colleagues or other nominees said. It is a new board. And so for me, I'm really trying to be sure that we are functioning within the roles that we are assigned and finding out more about what those roles are. I'm looking for transparency, obviously with law enforcement, but also to feel that it is supported, or our board is supported not just within the community, but also with law enforcement, that it doesn't feel like it's an adversarial board. And I think there was another question as far as like whether or not we're having what our contact is with law enforcement. So I am the one who will call the police if there is any type of shenanigans going on in the community. So I mean, that's me. I think, to be quite honest, I think that as a community, the Black community seems to shy away from calling the police when there are situations. And obviously we get why some of that may be. But I think that there really has to be a more concerted effort to just for everyone to just feel as though we're working towards a common goal. So even as from my homeowners association, I had, when he was Captain Lilly, invited him to come through our community, do walkthroughs. We participate in things like meet a cop, or have coffee with a cop. I think that's what it actually was called, that we did over at Dunkin' Donuts up the block from me. Community walks. I'm in constant contact with my community officer, Makawiki. And again, I just think it's really important for someone who is in the community. You know, I'm a mom, wife, and I'm in the community on a constant basis, and people know me. So even for instance, this Saturday, I had a shop owner, a business owner, relay some information to me about a potential crime that took place, and I immediately just sent that over to Officer Makawiki. So I just think if people feel like they can reach out to law enforcement, things would just get better. And I can ramble, obviously.
You answered that very well, and thank you not only for being a nominee, but for being an excellent citizen. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Any additional questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Crandall?
Ms. Rollingford, thank you for anticipating my questions, being the ninth person. So you not only are a good listener, you're also very patient for hanging on with us for this long. I appreciate that as well. Yeah, I just want to say that I was struck by something you said. regarding the fact that, you know, you go to a lot of community meetings, you're involved in various community groups, and you went to the community input meeting on the creation of the PAB. So I don't need to ask you any of those questions that I had asked previous nominees. But it does strike me as very interesting that in a community or in a jurisdiction with about 830,000 people, that we had 47 applicants to this board, which we all agree is one of the most important boards, or will be one of the most important boards in Baltimore County, because we are talking about public safety. And every council member has been to community meetings of different types, whether it's the PCRC, whether it's a community association, a homeowners association, a task force, such as the one that you're on for Liberty Road. And it seems to be always the same people. And and I'll go to something that always struck Chairman Jones. Every year, the council is required to deliberate on and either pass or reject the proposed budget by the county executive. And every year we hold a public hearing. And in my 7 years on the council, if we add up the number of people that commented on a budget in excess of $2 billion in each case, the amount of people that testified in that budget hearing, if you add them all up, are probably, and one of the members, correct me if I'm wrong, probably less than 5 total in 7 years. So I appreciate your sense of community and your citizenship and your willingness to serve in what could potentially be a not only an interesting position, but some things maybe even controversial that you might cross down the road. So thank you for stepping up, and I'll look forward to Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Crandall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're more than welcome. Any additional questions or comments? Well, Ms. Rolling Ford, of course, I thank you so much for all your advocacy in the community, whether it be Deer Park, Randallstown NAACP, or president of the Kings Park Community Association. We certainly appreciate everything you do, and Councilman Crandall hit it on the head. I mean, and I thank Councilman Marks and Councilman Batoka. I mean, you know, we do an awful lot to give communities an opportunity to participate. Many will, such as yourself, and there are many people who, quite frankly, are too busy doing whatever they do to be community minded and want to make our communities better. You obviously are investing your time and talent where it's needed, necessary. My dogs are barking at me. They want something, but they'll have to wait. No. And we certainly wish you well. So thanks again for your willingness to serve. Any additional questions or comments on anything? Okay, we've been on for quite some time, and I want to thank all the nominees for your willingness to serve. And thank you so much for your time being here so late. And we will vote on you Monday. All right. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great evening.